Hello friends, I am Nikhil, Senior DPO Ambala. Today I am going to discuss an important topic which will be useful for every railway personnel officer. The topic is Railway Servants, Hours of Work and Periods of Rest Rules 2005, which are popularly known as HOER rules. First, I will briefly tell about the background of these HOER rules in Indian Railways. Consequent upon ratification of Washington and Geneva Conventions sponsored by the International Labour Organization, the then Government of India, by an amendment in the Indian Railway Act of 1890, introduced a new chapter which dealt with hours of employment and period rest of the railway employees. This amendment was made in the year 1931, and as a result thereof, hours of employment rules 1931 came into force. These rules had been subsequently revised in 1951 and then in 1961 and later in 1969 through Railway Labour Tribunal Award and then in the 2005. These rules may be called as the Railway Servants HOER rules 2005. They came into force from the date of publication in the Gazette. In this regard, we have to mention about Railway Labour Tribunal Award 1969, which is a very important background for the present HOER rules also. The central government, by its resolution in 1969, appointed Honorable N.M. Miabai, a retired Chief Justice High Court of Gujarat, as one-man Railway Tribunal 1969 and reformed among others the following demands of NFIR in respect of the HOER rules, in regard to which the agreement between the Railway Board and the NFIR could not be arrived at. The PNF Permanent Negotiated Machinery. So many of the HOER rules were discussed in that award and came into force. Later, these rules were modified again in 2005, which are called as the HOER rules 2005. The aims and object of the HOER rules are: the HOER rules regulate the hours of employment of the railway servants, means how many hours the railway employee has to perform his duty in a averaging period, and also to regulate the period of rest after performing the duty, and also to regulate the payment of overtime for extra hours performed beyond the hours of employment. Because many a times, due to shortage of the staff or other exigencies, maybe accident, maybe any other calamity, sometimes the staff have to perform duty beyond the stipulated rostered hours. So for that, the staff are entitled for the overtime also. So broadly, the HOER rules classify the staff into four categories. One is intensive, second is essentially intermittent, third one is continuous, and fourth one is excluded. I will explain these categories in detail while we go into the subject in coming slides. Now we will come to the definition of hours of employment. What is the definition of hours of employment? The term refers to the time during which an employee is rostered for duty. It is also includes the periods of inaction. Means it includes both the period of action and also the period of inaction. It does not include intervals when the employee is free to leave his place of work, and the time taken by an employee in going to and coming from his residence and vice versa does not constitute hours of employment. That means if an employee coming to work and going to work from his residence, that time period does not constitute come into the ambit of the definition of this hours of employment. Next, period of interval. Period of interval means the period between spells of duties during which employee can leave duty pays. However, this should be definitely shown on the duty rosters as breaks in employment. This should be shown in the roster. Next, full night in bed. What is exactly this full night in bed? It is exactly the rest. If the employee is given rest between night 10 p.m. to morning 6 a.m., then the rest period can be called as the full night in bed. Next, night duty. So many times we call the railway staff perform the night duty. What is exactly the night duty? If the duty is performed between night 10 a.m. night 10 p.m. to morning 6 a.m., then it's called night duty. Even we can know that we pay night duty allowance also to certain staff if they perform the duty between these timings. Next, what is roster? It is a document which shows the duration of the hours of employment and periods of the rest of the employment. It shows the hours that railway servant is expected to be on duty every day, daily as well as weekly rest, and if any break between spells of duty in a day besides other particulars. This is called duty roster. Other than that, there is one more term called period of inaction. The period of inaction is a period of time during which the employee must remain present on duty at his place of work, although not exercising physical activity or sustained attention. The period of inaction is different from the interval because in the interval, the employee is free to leave his place of work. But in the period of inaction, the employee is not supposed to leave his place of work. He should remain present on duty only. This is the difference between period of inaction and the interval period. Next, long on. What is long on? Long on is a period of duty over 8 hours in the case of intensive roster and over 10 hours in the case of continuous workers and over 12 hours in the case of essentially intermittent staff. Generally, while preparing the roster, the long on should be avoided. These 8 hours, 10 hours and 12 hours rosters, you will get more clarity while we go into other slides where the standard hours and rostered hours of the different categories are explained. What is shut off? Shut off means a period of rest which is less than 12 hours in a roster of 6 hours duty and less than 14 hours in a mixed roster of 6 hours and 8 hours duty. This is in case of the intensive worker. Then next, less than 10 hours in the case of continuous worker and less than 8 hours in the case of essentially intermittent worker. This is means long on. What is the difference between long on and short off? Long on is the duty hours which are showing like the duty hours should not be more than this. The avoiding long on means the duty hours should be kept at the rostered hours. Short off means after duty hours, it denotes the period of rest. It means the minimum rest should be given at any cost. as shown in the short half. So while preparing the roasters, we should avoid two things. One is long on and short halves. Next, what is sustained attention? The term sustained attention implies mental effort. When a railway servant is called upon duty to display high levels of concentration and or physical activity. For example, a pointsman is waiting for the arrival of a train. After setting points, he is required to give sustained attention. Similarly, a station master is generally required to pay sustained attention from the time he gives the line clear to the station in the rear till the time the train arrives, and again from the time the line clear is asked for to the time the block section ahead is cleared. The definition of the term sustained attention given here is for general implication. In cases, however, where circumstances justify a different treatment, the period involving sustained attention may be decided on the merits of each individual case. For example, ASM set a stations equipped with the panel interlocking. The sustained attention should be reckoned from the time line clear is given to the station in rear to the time in report is received from the station in advance. Out of the above period, the duration from the time the approach signals are lowered to the time the train enters the next block section should be reckoned as one involving strenuous work. Same with I will give one more example, that is for cabinman. Cabinman will be considered to be an sustained attention from the time the line clear is given till the time of the arrival of the train. Split duty. What is split duty? It means duty in two or more spells with intervening breaks, each of half or more hour necessitated by exigencies of work, and when the employee is free to leave his place of work. Intervals for rest and meals shall not be breaks for the purpose of split duty. Generally, split duty will be given in sections where in between there are no train movement, so that the staff will be free from the work, and the station will be closed for those time, and he will be come to duty again. So split duty is a kind of instrument where we can utilize the staff as per the needs of the work. Now the question will come, who is the competent authority for classification of employment? So who is the prescribed authority? The powers to declare the employment of railway servants as intensive, essential intermittent or continuous are vested with the head of the railway administration, that is GM, or the GM can delegate the powers to principal CPU. The appeal against classification lies to Regional Labour Commissioner within 90 days of declaration, and then to the next appeal to the Secretary to the Government of India in the Ministry of Labour. Means if any railway employee or any aggrieved party want to go against the notification of the railway administration declaring any railway servant as the intensive or EI or continuous, he or she can appeal against the classification, and the appeal can goes to RLC, but it should be filed within the 90 days of declaration. Now we will come to the main topic of HYR rules. Already earlier we seen that the earlier slides already we seen. I will show it again. The staff are classified as intensive, essential intermittent, continuous, and excluded. Now we will go into details of these four categories. Intensive. The employment of a railway servant shall be held to be intensive when it is so declared by the head of the railway on the ground that it is of strenuous nature, involving continuous concentration or hard manual labor with little or no periods of relaxation. Under this definition, two factors must be present. That is, one is that strenuous nature of work tending to cause mental or physical strain, and second point is continuous application to such work with little or no period of relaxation. And also one more criteria is there, that is the period of inaction. We already seen the definition of the period of inaction in the previous slide. What is the period of inaction? The period of inaction is a period of time during which the employee must remain present on duty at his place of work, although not exercising physical activity or sustained attention. So that period of inaction do not aggregate 1 hour or more in a shift of 8 hours, or do not aggregate 6 hours or more in a cyclic roster of 24 hours. Now you see here the period of inaction is very less. Means majority of his duty hours are filled with the period of action only, with sustained attention. So that's why this category is called intensive category. In conducting job analysis for this purpose, therefore a fine distinction is to be made between light and strenuous work. For example, in the case of AMs, assistant station masters or station masters engaged purely in train working duties, the time from which the line clear has been given to the station in rare to the time the out report of the train is received from that station, and the period from the time train leaves the station limit till the in report of the train is received from the next station may be treated as the light work, provided the ASM is not otherwise busy in doing some other work like chanting operations, etc. This is a light work. This is not a strenuous work. The time the train entering the section signal is received or the time the signal is lowered, whichever is later, to the time the train passes the station limits. Remember the word. Till the time the train passes the station's limits may be treated as the strenuous work. Now you got while doing any job analysis, which will be treated as a light work, which should be treated as the strenuous work. One more thing, the mere fact that an employee's work is of strenuous nature does not establish his claim to be classified as the intensive unless in a job analysis it is found that the continuous application to such work is demanded of him with little or no period of relaxation. This is clearly mentioned in the 1969 Railway Labour Tribunal Award. The term strenuous describes the character of the duty performed in relative terms of physical or mental exertion, and the word sustained describes the time factor involved, that the strenuous duty is performed not sporadically but over a prescribed and well defined period of time. So this is important points of about the intensive classification. Now if we come to the how many hours one a railway servant should put in the intensive classification. So the weekly rostered hours are defined as that weekly rostered hours should be over a period of 7 days, should not be more than 42 hours. That is rostered hours are 42 hours. And again statutory limit. Statutory limit is 45 hours. The statutory limit of all the classifications are defined in the Railway Act in the section 132. So you can find the intensive classification statutory limit also in the Railway Act in the section 132. So that is 45 hours. So it defined the Railway Act, the section 132 also defined hours of weekly rest also. Even HYR rules 2005 also defined the hours of weekly rest in case of intensive classification. The minimum hours of weekly rest should be 30 hours for the intensive classification. This should be the minimum rest. This should not be breached at any cost. Next, essentially intermittent. The employment of a railway servant shall be regarded as the essentially intermittent when it has been declared to be so by the head of the railway administration on the ground that his daily duty hours include periods of inaction aggregating 6 hours or more, including at least one period of not less than 1 hour or 2 periods of not less than half an hour each, during which the railway servant is on duty but is not called upon to display either physical activity or sustained attention. The nature of work is such that the presence as duty place is essential, but it is not necessary that worker performs or displays any physical activity or sustained attention. This is different from the intensive classification. You see, there when the employee is in the duty, he has to put more sustained attention during the period of the duty. Here the sustained attention might be less, but the presence is more important. The period of inaction, like as here mentioned, the period of inaction should be aggregate 6 hours or more during 12 hours duty, including one period of 1 hour or 2 periods of half an hour each of the inaction. So, what are the weekly rostered hours of the essential intermittent category? The weekly rostered hours are 48 hours. But here is one more concept is there, where railway administration can take additional hours of duty from the essential intermediate categories. The additional hours of duty can be taken from one classification, that is 24 hours. From another classification they can take 12 hours. So from where they can take 24 hours of duty, additional hours? The staff who are posted on roadside stations and provided with the housing facilities within half kilometer, those people can take extras 24 hours, means 48 plus 24, that is total 72 hours of work the railway administration can take from them. Means the staff should be posted at roadside stations. Two conditions: one, they should be posted roadside stations. Next, the quarter should be within the half kilometer range. If they are posted at roadside station, but if the quarter is not within the half kilometer range, then you have to take extra 12 hours only, that is 48 plus 12, that is 60 hour duty. Next, second, staff who are posted other than roadside stations, you can take extra 12 hours duty, that is 48 plus 12, that is 60 hours of duty you can take. So in essential intermittent category, the statute limit is 75 hours and 60 hours depending of the posting of the staff at roadside stations, including the housing facility. Here the hours of weekly rest, that is minimum rest is 24 hours including night in bed. The including night in bed is very important here, that is we already discussed in the previous slide. Night in bed means the 24 hours of rest should include the night from night 10 p.m. to morning 6 a.m. The 24 hours should include this period. Then only it is called the 24 hours include night in bed. This rest should be given minimum to the essentially intermittent staff. And one more thing, in assessing the workload of the essential intermittent workers, any intervals of inaction which are quite insignificant should be ignored. In this connection, The railway board considered that in view of the very limited quantum of work expected from this class of workers, periods of inaction of less than 5 minutes only should be ignored in computing the total hours of inaction. That means while conducting job analysis, any period of inaction less than 5 minutes should be ignored. Only the period of inaction more than 5 minutes should be taken. The prescribed definition of essentially intermittent workers does not make any provision for the staff to relax during the period of inaction. That means the period of inaction, they may not be put in the sustained action, but they should not be relaxed from the duty. As such, the staff falling under the EA classification cannot be permitted to leave their place of work and cannot be permitted to lie down during the period of inaction while on duty. This is very much important. The staff classified as EI cannot be permitted to leave their place of work during their roster duty hours to have their meals, etc. at their quarters. They can very conveniently bring food with them and can take it only in sitting posture during the period of inactivity. Means they are not supposed to leave the workplace to go for meals and eating the food and coming back. They should come with all the preparation. They can eat food during the period of inaction. Next classification is continuous. The employment of a railway employee is said to be continuous except when it is excluded or has been declared to be essentially intermittent or intensive. The nature of work of continuous is it is not so busy like intensive worker and not so relaxed like EA worker. It's like mixed average workload when compared to the both the. If the EA and intensive are the two extreme points, continuous will be the midpoint of the spectrum. All railway employees except those excluded from the hours of employment are assumed to be continuous. Therefore, on the basis of the factual job analysis, it may be classified as EA or intensive. You all know whenever a new railway is commissioned, if there are no guidelines, generally we assume the classification as the continuous. Thereafter, the job analysis will be done to change it to either EA or intensive or to continue in the continuous. So, what is the period of inaction in the continuous? It should not be more than 2 hours during the 8 hours of duty. See here, period of inaction is less compared to the period of inaction in the essential intermediate category, but the period of inaction is more compared to period of inaction in the intensive category. It is in the middle of the spectrum. So, what are the weekly rostered hours? The weekly rostered hours are 48 hours here. Here there are no additional hours to be performed as like in the EA. Even in the EA classification also the rostered hours are 48 only. But there railway administration can take extra work of 12 hours from some category of workers and 24 hours from other category of workers. Here that additional hours concept is not there in the continuous classification. Here the rostered hours 40 hours. But however, for ministry staff working in the administrative offices or big units like division and headquarter offices, the rostered hours are 40 hours. The statutory limit here is 54 hours. So hours of weekly rest minimum 30 hours should be there. So the last category, that is the first category, that is the excluded. What is the excluded category? Which is excluded. That is excluded is a category for which no provision have been made in respect of hours of employment, periods of weekly rest and payment of overtime elements. So these are excluded from the HYR rules and period of rest and also payment of the overtime. So who are the staff comes under the excluded category? All supervisors of the railways and our stenographers and confidential assistants and personal assistant and also cyber operators, matrons and nurses and sister in charge, railway school teachers, instructors working in the training centers. All these categories comes under to the excluding category. Here there are no minimum hours of duty and rest are prescribed strictly in the excluded category. So this table will give you a clear picture of the 4 categories and their rostered hours and their statutory hours and what is the rest. What is the rest to be taken? Here, you know that intensive rostered hours are 42 hours. Again, the statutory hours are 45. The rest is 30 hours. Average period is 14 days. Means over a period of 2 weeks, the total duty hours should not cross the rostered hours. If they cross the rostered hours, then the OT will be given. So the averaging period will be 2 weeks. While giving the OT or while checking whether they are crossing the standard hours or rostered hours, then it has to be total credit for the two weeks for the 14 days. Same for the continuous classification also. The averaging period is 14 days. But in the case of essential intermediate category, the averaging period is 7 days only. You have to check this rostered hours 60 and 72 hours whether they are crossing or not. You have to check it within the period of the 7 days roster. And one more thing, here in the essential intermediate category, the rostered hours are 60 and 72, but original rostered hours are 48 only. Then extra 24 and 12 are based on the roadside station water availability. Here I want to go much into background of this. You can see wherever you are seeing the 48 hours fixed works. The additional hours may be there. So you might get a doubt that from where this 48 hour per week concept is taken. I already explained in the introduction. That's our HYR rules also based on the Washington Convention. So Washington Convention, there was a conference held in Washington 1919 where the hours of work convention was adopted. So in that convention there are many articles which define about the hours of employment. So no need to go into all those articles, but Article 2 is very much important in the Washington Convention. What Article 2 says, I will just tell you. Article 2 says that the working hours of persons employed in industrial undertaking shall with a few exceptions limited to 8 in a day and 48 in the week. It clearly said the average number of work hours over a period of 3 weeks or less does not exceed the limit of 48 hours per week. There, Washington Convention, it spoke about rostered hours, minimum rostered hours. They said it should not exceed the limit of 48 hours per week. That is about rostered hours. Then we come to rest. Everywhere you are seeing rest minimum 30 hours, at least minimum 24 hours. You can see in the essential intermediate category, the minimum should be 24 hours including full night pay. In the excluded category, the minimum rest 48 hours will be, effort should be made to give the rest up to 48 hours. But if it is not possible to give 48 hours rest to the excluded category, a bare minimum is the 24 hours. That is must. The 24 hours rest should be given to at any cost to the excluded category also. Continuous and intensive 30 hours rest is there. So the concept of rest of minimum 24 hours has a genesis in the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention was adopted at the General Conference held in Geneva in 1921 and aimed at providing rest in industrial undertakings. The Article 2 of the Geneva Convention provides for the grant of period of rest comprising at least 24-hour consecutive hours in every period of 7 days to persons employed. This was apparently based on Article 427 of the Treaty of Versailles, suggesting that the adoption of a weekly rest of at least 24 hours should including Sunday wherever possible. The Geneva Convention says two things. One is at least 24 consecutive hours in every period of 7 the rest should be given. Wherever possible, the rest should be given on the Sunday. Both things are very important, and both the items are included in our HYR rules also, these were included in the RLT award in 1969 also. So the same are figuring in our Indian Railways HYR rules also. Now you got to know about where this 48-hour concept and 24-hour concept is taken into our standard HYR rules. There is one more concept, that is preparatory and complementary work, or both, which is popularly known as PNC work. The concept of preparatory and complementary work is evolved by the Railway Labour Tribunal 1916 award. If you get time, I suggest one should definitely go through the Railway Labour Tribunal 1969 award to get more knowledge and more depth of the knowledge about the HYR rules. Because everything, whatever you are finding in the HYR 2005, have their genesis in the 1916 award. What the RLT award 96 says, in order that a work may be preparatory and a complementary work within the meaning of the Washington Convention. Again, the RLT award genesis is from the Washington Convention. So from Washington Convention and Geneva Convention, we taken many of the items into our RLT award, and from RLT award, the things are flown into the HYR rules 2005. What says the PNC work within the meaning of the Washington Convention, it must be of such a character that is necessary to be carried on outside the normal hours of work. That means PNC work, it is such a necessary that it should be carried on outside of the normal hours of work. Therefore, the time for PNC work has necessarily to be additive to the limit of the normal hours of work. जो अभी तक हमने देखा जो नॉर्मल आवर्स ऑफ वर्क, within that the normal hours of PNC time would come. This is necessarily an additive to the limit of the normal hours of work. So PNC is an additional hour of work. The specific recommendation of the Railway Tribunal on the issue of PNC work reads as under: PNC work, which expression also include taking over and handing over charges. What it said? Include taking over and handing over charges. This explains what is PNC work, and be demanded from workers in regard to work which must necessarily be carried out on outside the limits laid down for the general working of an establishment, branch or shift. The award says that PNC work is a taking over and handing over work which should be performed outside the limits of the general working hours. And one more thing is, the handing over and taking over is only one aspect of the PNC work. The concept of PNC work is relevant even in the case of single shift workers, where there may be no handing or taking over. PNC work वहां भी होता है जहां सिंगल शिफ्ट वर्कर होता है, वहां भी PNC वर्क होता है, इवन दो वहां कोई हैंडिंग और टेकिंग ओवर का कोई कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं है. टू हाउ टू डिटरमिन PNC वर्क कितना कितना करना है, कैसे करना है? To determine the time required to the preparatory and complementary work, job analysis of such items of work in respect of representative post in each respective category should be carried out. So ये जो PNC वर्क है इसको job analysis करके निकालना पड़ेगा. So the PNC work is defined in the HYR rules 2005 very much clear. What it says in the HYR rules 2005 about PNC work: when the employment is intensive, the PNC work should be 3 hours per a week. When the employment is continuous, it should be 6 hours per a week. When the employment is essentially intermittent, means we spoke about the people who's posted outside station within the off-kilometer range. For them, it is 3 hours per week. And the railway servants which are posted at roadside station, for them it is the 4.5 hours per a week. So these are the fixed PNC work of the different categories. So here one more thing we have to see about PNC work. That is the time spent by the outgoing station master or ASM after his normal rostered hours in clearing block section for a train for which the line clear was given by him during his normal duty hours. Means the line clear was given by him the normal duty hours, but that would be covered by the PNC work, and as such the payment of overtime on this account would not be admissible in such a case. This is very much important because many times the station master claims overtime after the rostered hours by saying that they spent extra half an hour. Railway board rules or the HMRs clearly says that this is a PNC work and that period overtime is not eligible. So while checking the overtime claims, the personal officers and the welfare inspectors should keep it in mind, and this period should be removed from the OT claims. If you see the OT claims, if you can see some of the OT claims out of the, definitely you will find, if you take out the whole division OT claims of your station master category, definitely at least you will find one or two such claims where they are claim OT for the PNC work also. Like if their duty is for 8 hours, they will show that they did duty for 8 and a half hours by showing that half an hour extra is the overtime. But it's the half an hour extra is the PNC work. It is not exactly the time to eligible for the overtime. And one more thing about PNC work is when you are doing job analysis, if the PNC time is less than 15 minutes, then the PNC work should be taken as the zero. There is no PNC work time. If the time is between PNC work time is between 15 minutes and 45 minutes, then it should be taken as the half an hour. Next comes the topic of the overtime payment. So already I shown that is rostered hours and statutory hours. If any employee duty hours are cross the rostered hours, then he is eligible for the overtime payment. And if he crosses statutory also, he is eligible for OT, but at a double rate. So how the OT will be calculated? It is calculated by the principle of averaging. The hourly rate of OT will be worked out on the basis of the rostered hours over the period of averaging. जो हमने averaging period दिखाया अभी, वो rostered उस averaging period में calculate, we will calculate the averaging in that average period. If it is 2 weekly period, then the rostered hours will calculate the 2 weeks period. Like here for intensive it should be the 2 weeks and continuous 2 weeks, and for EA category it is 7 days. So the period of averaging will be 2 weeks in the case of workers in the intensive and the continuous classification, and 1 week in the case of EA workers. The principle of averaging will be applied to the only following category, that is running staff, then operating department staff and shift workers, and those whose work is connected with the work of above 3 categories. Payment of overtime. Where the railway servant is required to render extra hours of duty beyond the rostered hours, he shall be paid overtime for such extra hours of work. I already said, for excess hours of work rendered by railway employee beyond rostered hours up to statutory hours, that means between rostered hours and statutory hours, the payment of OT shall be made at a 1.5 times of the ordinary rate of pay. But if the excess hours are rendered beyond statutory hours, payment of OT shall be made at twice the ordinary rate of pay. Just I will show example. In the case of intensive worker, if the duty hours are 44, then it means that is between the 42 hours and 45 hours, that is rostered on statutory hours. So the overtime payment will be made for the extra hours only in the range of 1.5 times of the ordinary rate of pay. For example, if the total hours are come to 48 in the intensive category, that means 48 hours means that is it is more than the statutory hours. That will be cross of the statutory hours. For this, Whatever the period they cross the statutory hours, then that period will be treated for the double payment. That is two times the OT will be given in the if you cross the beyond statutory hours. This is the formula for the calculation of overtime. So this is a simple calculation. These days the calculation also, earlier they used to calculate in the manually. Nowadays also when you see the overtime claim, they calculate on the sheet and the manual, but in the IPAS these days the OT module also there where the calculation can be done automatically also by entering the hours of duty. Next, there is a concept credit for the period of leave of authorized absence. If the procedure of allowing a separate credit for the purpose of calculation of overtime allowance admissible to staff for the period they are on leave with or without pay should be followed. Means if any employee taken leave, whether it may be any kind of leave, whether it may be CL, whether it may be LAP, whether it can be the leave without pay, for that period he will get a credit, but he won't get overtime. He will get credit for the calculation of the overtime, but he won't get any overtime for the period of the leave. I will explain in the next slide. So in the case of running staff, the 2 weekly limit of the deemed roster hours should be adjusted in proportion to the days of the absence or leave in this period. Means like we have to how to calculate the total number of actual days will be worked out, and including the days of the rest in period which they worked out should be taken into account. Like for example, if the staff is absent for the 10 days and he worked for the 20 days, then according to that proportion his absent period will be removed and that proportion the leave period will be calculated. One more thing is, in calculating overtime, no separate credit will be given for the days of the rest. Means every employee is entitled for the weekly rest. For that weekly rest, he won't get any credit. Only for the leave, he will get the credit. This is very much important. Just remember, I will explain it the importance of this in the once this topic is completed. In the case of other staff, the same procedure will be applicable, except here the normal actual roster hours should be adjusted in proportion to the days of absence in a 2 weeks period. That the staff working on fixed duty roster will be allowed the following rate. For example, if the classification is continuous, the rostered hours of duty are 96 hours in over period of 2 weeks. Credit allowed for absence of leave for 1 day, that will be 6 hours 51 minutes. So if you pick up any OT claim, if you see, like for example, continuous is let us assume that is working period is roster is 8 hours per day. If any employee is absent, and that means taken leave on any particular day, for that 8 hours of duty, he will get a credit of 6 hours 51 minutes. So in that is as a rostered hours of duty, he will get a 6 hours plus 51 minutes. Same with different kind of rosters. This is the credit to be allowed as per the absence of the leave. This is calculated as a pro rata basis. It's a very simple calculation. You can take any category and you can do the pro rata calculation. Here one more, here the important thing about, I already said that in calculating no separate credit will be given to the days of rest. Here we all should check one thing whenever we go for the inspection. Staff are entitled for the rest, but instead of taking rest, if they are given leave, means they are getting the credit for the that absence or leave, and it will be added to the overtime calculation. But if they are given rest, then no separate kit will be taken. So when a staff is entered for the rest, he should be given rest first. Then only he can take the leave. Yes, he can combine rest and leave together. But always, whenever he wants to take leave, first the senior subordinate should ensure that the available rest should be availed. Which is very important. Whenever you go for inspection, you check it. Definitely, you will find one or two such cases where a staff is entitled for rest and his rest is forfeited. But instead of rest, he is given the leave because he will get benefit of the overtime due to credit. This is a very important point to check while inspections of the personnel officers and also WLS to reduce the false overtime claims. One more thing. While working beyond rostered hours and sometimes statute limits cannot always be avoided, but it should not be permitted to become a normal feature. That means the overtime should not become normal feature. The railway administration should wherever necessary review the existing cadres and bring them to the normal working requirements. One more thing is, these are not exactly concept, but these are small rules of the overtime. Sometimes the station, as per the station master's operating department manual, the station masters are supposed to do some periodical surprise night inspections. So whenever the station master conduct a surprise night inspection between night 22 hours and 6 hours, morning 6 hours, to detect the irregularities or to do any night inspection. For such inspections, a credit of half an hour per night inspection should be afforded for the purpose of computing their hours of work to permit payment of overtime if it becomes due. Means for every night inspection they are doing, a credit of half an hour per night inspection will be given to them. This is one more thing. And one more concept is credit for accompanying dead engines and engines on trial. The loco running staff who may be deputed to accompany dead engines may be allowed 2/3 credit for the time spent by them during such journeys, and the loco running staff accompanying engines on trial may be allowed full credit for the entire journey. Then now we should discuss about how to reduce overtime in any establishment, because these days railway board also giving so much stress on reducing the allowances being given to the railway employees. That means it's not that we should reduce them, which are rightly due for them, but we should try to minimize the overtime claim so that no one is falsely claimed. So while for curtailment of overtime, I suggest some factors should be kept in mind while you are doing inspection, or while if you do want to do some kind of overall introspection. It is entire responsibility of the senior subordinate to book the staff under his control for taking work beyond the rostered hours and statute limits. He should book the staff only in unavoidable circumstances, and where he is not authorized to book the staff on overtime basis, he should obtain necessary approval from the competent authority and should maintain a proper record. And one more thing is, every department have their rest giver and leave reserve share. So the rest giver and leave reserve staff must be deployed fully to cater rest and leave. Relief must always be provided to train passing and train working staff, and excessive works of work from such staff should be taken in exceptional circumstances only. Whenever you go for inspection, you might see this kind of not at all the places. At some places you might find this kind of situation where for example, a continuous roster, 8 hours duty. So 3 staff will be posted and 1 rest giver might be there. So sometimes you may see the third staff is given leave and also rest giver also given leave. Because of that, what will happen? Only out of 4 staff, only 2 staff will be there and 1 staff has to perform the overtime. So sometimes it will be done deliberately also. Sometimes it might be necessity also. I am not saying every time it will happen out of the, but sometimes it might happen deliberately, because if it happens only once, it might be necessity. But if it is happening regularly, frequently in that section, in that station, then it may be happening deliberately to claim the OT. So such instances should be brought out and should be brought out to the knowledge of the branch officer to stop those kind of things. Means continuously the 2 persons are going in a spell in every that averaging period to claim OT. So such kind of things can be arrested by utilizing the rest giver and leave reserve staff efficiently. And one more thing already I explained, I am telling again, that is railway employees should normally be allowed compensatory off within the stipulated average period for curtailment of accrualment of overtime. They should be given rest whenever it is in the average period only. It should not be accrued, like the rest should be forfeited. Again the rest will be going to the next averaging period. That means overtime will be accumulated. He should whenever every senior subordinate should ensure that whenever the compensated rest is pending to him, he should grant CR, compensated rest he should grant to him, then only leave should be granted. As such, rest for forfeiture of rest of the employees must be maintained at the respective stations. Every register should maintain when the rest is due, and if it is forfeited, when he is utilizing the forfeiture by a CR, compensatory rest. That should be maintained in every register, and every personal officer and welfare inspector should check their records that when is the rest is due, why it is violated, and when it is given in the next period. And you have to check whether any leave is given in between instead of giving the compensatory rest. And one more thing also you can do, or like is in vehicle drivers, there is any hardly justification for the payment of overtime, because if the vehicle is government vehicle, if it is a government vehicle driver, it is must be avoided to do inspections beyond the time. Instead of taking the government official vehicles, if the outsourced vehicles are available, then those vehicles can be utilized to curtail the period of overtime. So next, periodical rest, that we already discussed earlier in the slide. That rest, again I am saying, the rest who belongs to intensive or continuous category shall be granted every week commencing on a Sunday rest of not less than 30 consecutive hours, whose employment is EI, shall be granted rest of not less than 24 hours consecutive hours including a full night. And no railway staff classified as intensive, continuous or EI shall be called on duty unless he had a rest of not less than 12 hours, 10 hours, 8 hours respectively through the rest givers. This is already explained in as a short off concept. If it is violated, it is called short off. So locomotive or traffic rest giver staff shall be granted each month a rest of at least 5 periods of not less than 22 hours, or a rest of at least 4 periods of not less than 30 hours including full night. The hours of rest shall be collected from the signing on to sign off. Compensatory rest. Already discussed, again I am saying, the no railway servant in respect of whom an exemption has been made under Rule 9 shall be required to work for more than 14 days without a period of rest, and shall be provided with compensatory rest within this period. Means the compensatory rest should be given within 14 days time. Now we will discuss briefly about running staff duty hours. Running staff is all loco pilots and even guards also. These guidelines came in 2016 and 17. These guidelines are little bit different from 2005. 2005 guidelines will be there, but these are the revised and modified guidelines which are received in 2016 and 2017 circulars. What it says is total duty at a stretch, including both sign off and sign off, should not exceed 11 hours. Total duty at a stretch should not exceed 11 hours, including sign on sign off. And again, one more thing. Running duty at a stage should not ordinarily exceed 9 hours. So, running duty at a stage should not ordinarily exceed 9 hours. This is excluding sign off. Such a duty may extend further, provided the railway administration given at least 2 hours notice before the expiry of 9 hours. Means, if the necessity shows that extra 2 hours are required, then the railway administration could give notice at least before the expiry 9 hours that extra 2 hours has to be performed, so that the stipulation that the total duty from sign on to sign off shall not exceed 11 hours. One more point. Sometimes it happens that train delays. In case the train does not reach its destination, normal crew changing point of the point where the reliever has been arranged with the over-off limit of 11 hours, and such a point is approximately 1 hour journey away, the running staff shall be required to work to that point, provided that the maximum hours in the trip does not exceed 12 hours. Even in that case also, if the train does not reach on the destination, the whatever the crew changing point is there, it is not reaching on the time. But even in that case also, the maximum hours of the trip should not exceed 12 hours. So this is normal case for all the running staff. The fourth point is very much important because this is particularly only for the loco pilots of mail and express trains. For loco pilots of all mail and express trains, the running duty for the preparation of links only should not exceed 8 hours. However, the PNC time shall not include within 8 hours. So whatever the PNC time for running staff is there, that is not including this 8 hours. This is excluding of PNC time. This fourth point is very much important because many times people will confuse by saying that other than loco pilots of mail and express trains, like maybe cards may say that our duty also 8 hours for link purpose. No, it's not so. For them, the link should be, running duty should be not at a stage will be the 9 hours duty while preparing the links. But for preparing the links for loco pilot of the mail and express trains, the running duty for the purpose of link will be 8 hours. This is only specifically for the purpose of loco pilots of all mail and express trains. The 8 hours condition is. This is only specifically for these people only. And for the running staff subject to exit service, headquarter rest of all running staff will be 16 hours, irrespective of the duration of their incoming trip. This is very much important. Whatever the incoming trip duration, it doesn't matter. They have to be given rest of 16 hours. In further in exam service, the existing provision will continue to the minimum condition. Whatever the exam service, the existing provision should be the minimum condition. Sometimes it happens like the driver is coming from some other station. That trip may be around 4 to 5 hours. But even in that case also, the headquarters should be minimum of 16 hours. That's why it mentioned that the 16 hours are irrespective of the duration of the incoming trip. Next point is a maximum limit of 125 days duty hours per fortnight should be laid down for all running staff. For all the running staff, the maximum limit of duty hours are 125 days in a fortnight period. This should not be breached in at any case. Next point, the limit of stay away from headquarters for running staff should be fixed at 72 hours. Whatever the staying away from the headquarters, that should be fixed at 72 hours. It should not be more than 72 hours. Means for running staff should not be out of his headquarters for more than 72 hours. So links should be prepared in such a way that the stay away from headquarters should not be more than 72 hours. One more thing, the continuous night duty for running staff should be limited to 4 nights with 4th night towards headquarters. This is also very much important point while preparing links. I am suggesting you all personnel officers and all welfare inspector must go through these rules because while preparing links, These points should be ensured. All personnel officers should personally see the links and personally should ensure that the continuous night wherever the links are showing, that should not be limited to 4 nights. With 4th night, the link should towards the headquarters, that person link. And same with the headquarter rest. And also staying away from the headquarter, and also the maximum of hours. And also while preparing links, the hours for the male and extra strength other people. So all these points are very important for while preparing the links. Everyone should ensure that these should be followed while preparing the links. Now I will discuss about duty rosters. These are the, whenever you go for the field, you will see duty roster in the duty roster register. Every station and every staff should be, because if every staff is almost these 3 classifications, continuous, intensive and EI, so everywhere the roster hours are fixed, PNC time is defined. So as per that, whoever the staff coming into these 3 classifications, then a duty roster should be prepared without fail. And while preparing duty rosters, some factors should be borne in mind. Those are very important. That is that the hours of work on a daily roster on an average per week, as the case may be, are restricted only as admissible under the relevant classification as due under the HYR rules. In the case of EA workers, the additional work should be included strictly in terms of provision. Vis-a-vis provision for railway resource accommodation, means the additional hours of duty should be shown separately in the roster. And the statutory minimum weekly rest of 30 consecutive hours to intensive and continuous workers and 24 consecutive hours to essential intermediate workers, including a full night in bed, must be provided. And while preparing rosters, long on and short off should be avoided as far as practicable. And in the case of split shift rosters, the following conditions should be observed. One thing is, spells of duty should not exceed 3 and the number of breaks thus limiting to the 2. Means the spells of duty should not be exceed 3. Means the break should be limited to the 2. Any break of less than half an hour should be ignored and included in the duty hours. As far as possible, I am saying about split roster, if anywhere split roster is being made, as far as possible, the spread hours should be limited to 16 hours, provided that the rest between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. is not broken. So these are very important points while preparing the rosters. I will explain you briefly. This is a duty roster of the EA staff. This is just an example roster for Ambala division. EA staff, we all know what are the rostered hours, that is 48 hours. And additional hour 24 hours we can take if the quarter is within 0.5 kilometer. So here the employee quarter is within 0.5 kilometer. So the additional hours are 24 we are taking and total hours are 72 hours. See here. Then here you can see what are the statute hours for him per day. Out of 48, that is 8 hours. Out of 24 hours, that is 4 hours per day. Means 8 plus 4, 12 hours per day he will have to work. So that duty roster can be Sunday if he is on the rest. One day he should be given rest. Then Sunday if he is given the rest. Then on Sunday the work of EA will be taken over by the rest giver. I already said now, everywhere rest giver will be there, and rest giver should be adjusted so that they will be fit into the rosters. Here Sunday from morning 8 to 20 hours he will work. That is 10 hours 8 plus additional 4, 12 hours. So after Sunday, Monday the A will pick up the work from midnight 0 hours and up to 8 hours. After that he will take 12 hours rest. Here see that rest is 12 hours. That means between morning 8 o'clock to night 8 o'clock. The rest is 12 hours. Again at night 8 o'clock he will come and up to 24 hours he will work. That is 4 hours. That is 8 plus 4 12 hours. So per day he will work for 12 hours and rest is 12 hours. Same for the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday he will work like that. Again Sunday is the rest. Same for then if you come for the B, where he started the work 0 to 8 and where he here you see resting hour worked from because he is rest on Sunday A is on rest. So because Sunday A is on rest, the resting hour worked from 8 to 20. After 20, see here 20 to 24 he picked up the work, and before 8 to 20, 0 to 8 we already started the work. 08 Sunday 0 to 8 we did the work. After 8 to 20 resting hour did the work, and 20 to 24 again we pick up the work. So the total 24 hour covered between the two people, that is 12 hours plus 12 hours. Again on Monday, after B completed the work at 24 hours on Sunday night. That is the Monday morning 0 hours. A pick up the work. Then B he is given rest on the Monday. So rest giver worked on the Monday. So remaining days there is no resting hour because Tuesday, Wednesday and Saturday both these people work for 12 hours and 12 hours. Out of 24 hours they both split into 12 hours, 12 hours. On this day there is no resting hour. Next we go to another roster. C. For example, any station. Let us take one station, important station, let it be any station like Ambala. So there are 3 batches. One batch, 2 people are there, A and B. In next batch, this is another batch, that is A and B. Here the same resting giver, here he worked on Sunday and Monday. Here the same resting giver, here utilizing on that other batch, that is Tuesday and Wednesday. So that these people got the rest on these days. That he got rest on Tuesday, he got on Wednesday. Their rest or adjusted shows that resting giver can be utilized properly. Here you see, rest is given on Sunday and Monday for this batch, for these 2 people A and B. So that the resting giver is utilized on the Monday and Tuesday, Sunday and Monday. Here the rest is given on the not given on the Sunday and Monday because already we are utilizing the resting giver there. Because here we are utilizing the main people A and B on the Sunday and Monday, and Tuesday and Wednesday we are giving the rest to these people, so that the same resting giver which worked earlier, now we are utilizing him here. The roster is similar. It is A roster. Next, if you go to the third batch in the same station, this is the third batch. Here you see the second batch taken the rest on Tuesday and Wednesday. So third batch we are giving rest on Thursday and Friday, so that the same rest giver we are utilizing only rest giver for the 3 batches. So here see here we are utilizing on the Thursday and Friday for this batch, so that one rest giver can be utilized for the 3 batches, and you see the rest giver working from Sunday to Friday, and Saturday he can take the rest. So in this period, in this process, in this roster, the rest giver also getting rest on the Saturday, and he is providing rest to other people on remaining days. Like he is providing rest to the B, third batch B on rest on Friday, and here on rest on Thursday, here on Wednesday, here on Tuesday, here on Sunday and Monday. So single rest giver is providing rest for rest for these people on all the days, and he himself taking rest on the Saturday as per his roster. So here this is called effective utilization of rest giver in preparing the rosters. This is for EA staff. Next I will show the roster of the continuous staff. Here see again the batch is A. Here the person is A, B and C. This is first batch. See now, he is the rest giver. Here the rest giver is being utilized on the Sunday for A, and he is being utilized on the rest giver for B on Monday, and he is being utilized on rest giver for Tuesday for C. Continuous roster, it is 8 hours for 8 hours roster. So 3 people will be there because 8 into 3 24. A is rest on Sunday. Then on Sunday B pick up the work from 0 to 8. Then 8 to 16 rest giver, and 16 to 24 C. So that is 24 hour cycle is completed between B, C and rest giver. Next when if we come to Monday, 8 hours 0 to 8 is A, and again B on rest, and C 16 24 and 8 to 16 is rest given. Again Tuesday. So rest giver utilized here, so that these 3 people got rest. Now you see here, rest giver is being utilized in the daytime. Why? Because mostly we utilize rest giver in the daytime so that they won't claim night duty allowance. Because if the staff worked from night 10 o'clock to morning 8 o'clock, then they will claim night duty. So there is a concept of consolidated night duty allowance also. That means there are fixed, if in a continuous roster, if the staff are working for 30, if the the standard roster, if there is no violation of the standard roster, these 3 people will get 13 hours each consolidated night duty allowance. In that consolidated night duty allowance, the rest giver won't come into picture because he did not perform any night duty. If at all, if the roster is made like that, if the rest giver also performing the night duty, then the actual night duty performed will be given instead of the consolidated night duty allowance. That's why mostly while preparing the rosters, we ensure that the rest giver work only on the daytime so that we won't pay any night duty allowance for the rest giver. You see, in the next roster also, he is utilizing on the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Here you are utilizing on the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in the second roster. This second batch, A, B, and C, we are utilizing on the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so that the same rest giver will be utilized for the first batch and the second batch also. So this is for the continuous roster. This is now you get to know the A to 0 to 8 is B, and 8 to 16 is A, and 16 to 24 E. This is for the 1 week roster. This is roster for the 1 week. Once the 1 week is completed, the A will pick up the work of B. Like 0 to 8, here he will become 16 to 24. Like A will pick up the roster of B, and here in next week the B will pick up the roster of C, and C will pick up the roster of A. It's a cyclic thing. So that everyone will get, the duties will be changed accordingly. This is the example roster of the continuous staff of administration, like supervisory staff of the DRM office. So we already discussed earlier that for them the roster hours are, even though they are continuous classroom, the roster are fixed for 40 hours. So the roster will be prepared like this: Sunday is rest, Monday 9:30 to this is for Ambala division. The timings can be changed convenient to the local timings of anything. In Ambala division, the work starts at 9:30 up to 14 hours, up to 13:30 hours. 13:30 hours to 14 hours, that half an hour is lunch period, that is a rest period, and 14 to 18, that is 8 hours. So 8 hours over a period of 5 days, that is 40 hours, and the rest will be completely given Saturday and Sunday. Here you see that hours of rest is 16 hours because the work is completed at 18 to 24, how many hours? 18 to 24 is 6 hours, plus 0 to 9:30 hours, that is 9:30, plus this half an hour lunch period, this half an hour, that is 10 hours, plus 16, that is 16 hours. So every day he is getting 16 hours rest. On Friday he will get half an hour rest of this lunch. Every day he will get half an hour. Here he will get half an hour of lunch. And Saturday that is 30 hours, and here the 33 hours and 30-minute rest. Here 30 hours means that Friday 18 hours to 24 hours, 6 hours, plus Saturday 24 hours. That will be showed as combined rest, because the duty roster should be prepared that the combined rest should be shown in one single day. The total hours of rest he will get is 128 hours. This is example roster of the supervisory staff of the, this is duty roster of the ministry staff of the Ambala division, that is except supervisory staff, because supervisory staff there is no roster. As per the excluded category, they have to work whenever they call for the duty. So this is the duty roster of ministry staff at the division office, DRM office. One more thing. This is duty roster of the continuous staff of the office superintendent, ministry staff only. Here also staff duty roster. But here the difference is, this is AN office roster. The difference between ministry staff roster at division and EN office field is, in division office the weekly hours, weekly working days will be 5, but in the field the working days will be 6 hours per week, not 5 hours per week, because these are fixed from the railway board. Field units have to perform 6 days a week. So their duty hours are fixed like that. Here we fix 8 hours. Instead of 8 hours, we fix duty hours like 6 or 40 minutes per day. Like 10 to 13, 13:32, this is the lunch period, 13 to 17:10. So that 16:40, 40. The total hours will be 40 only. But these 40 hours will be spread over a period of 6 days. Because the field office has to be open for the 6 days, they can't work for 5 days. Because sometimes if you go for, I don't think it will be there, but sometimes you might see any AN office, if any old roster issued for 5 days, please ensure that the ministry staff should work for 6 days and the new roster will be issued for the 6 days. So this is the office Kalasi roster of the Ambala division. This is a model roster. So here from office Kalasi, here we are taking 45 hours. Though they are continuous, this is less than 48 hours only. So here, if the office starting at 9:30, here we are calling them at 9 o'clock. That is half an hour before, and they will stay half an hour extra, so that their hours of duty will become 9 hours. So that they will do the necessary work before and after office. The total hours will be 45 hours. This is the standard roster for the office Kalasi or office pune or whatever you call the multitasking pune in these days. So this one more category is left over, that is intensive classification roster. This is intensive classification roster. In the intensive classification, the standard roster hours are 42 hours. So here 4 people are there, A, B, C, D. See here, Sunday A work from 0 to 6, that is 6 hours. So his hours of rest are 12, and from 6 to 12 B ने काम किया, then 12 to 18 C did the work, and 18 to 24 D did the work. So over a period of 24 hours, these 4 people spread out the work, that is 6 and 6. Here there won't be any rest given. The rest will be arranged between these 4 people only. You can here see, when the Wednesday, when he is taking rest after Tuesday, he worked from 0 to 6 hours. Again he came to duty on the Wednesday and the 18 to 24 only, he got the rest of 36 hours. See, as per railway board policy, minimum 30 hours should be given. So here we are giving the rest of 36 hours in this roster. So whenever he is taking rest here on the day, in Wednesday, 0 to 6 will be performed by the B, and 6 to 12 will be performed by the C, and 12 to 18 will be performed by the D. Here the rest will be arranged within these people only, so that extra rest giver won't be, no need to be arranged extra rest giver. Here I again said in the previous roster that once the week, this is for weekly roster, once this is completed, A will pick up the work of B, B will pick up the work C. Same like here, A will pick up the work of B, and B will pick up the work of C, and C will pick up the work of D over every each week. The duty rosters are 42 hours week. This is intensive classification. So we covered all the rosters of all the classifications. EI classification, so we covered 72 hours roster. Here we did not cover the 60-hour roster because almost is similar to that only in 60 hours roster. In 60-hour roster, what will generally happen is 12 hours every day they will work for 12 hours, but they will work for only 5 days. The rest will happen for the 2 days. Because the total hours will be 60 hours, 12 into 5, 60 hours, so baki 2 days will be rest in the EA roster of the 60 hours. So that is the only difference. So we covered all the model rosters of the classifications. I hope this will be helpful to all the personnel officers and all the welfare inspectors. Thank you very much. This presentation is only a attempt to make the HRS familiar to you. If any rule is misquoted or any rule is missed in this presentation, that may be brought to the knowledge of the me. And thank you very much.